I didn't mean to stare, but it was hard not to. She had that way of moving through a room like the air itself bent around her. Graceful, unhurried, but never trying. My friend's mom. Mid-40s. Hair loosely pinned, a few strands sliding free. She set a glass down on the counter, the faint clink echoing in a kitchen that suddenly felt too quiet. I shouldn't have been looking that long. I told myself that. But when she turned, her eyes caught mine, just for a second too long, and it was like she knew. "Another coffee?" she asked, tilting the pot toward me. Her voice was light, but there was a pause in it, a hesitation that made the question feel heavier than it was. "Sure," I said, though the cup in front of me was still half full. She poured anyway, careful, steady. A drop spilled, tracing down the rim. Without thinking, I reached for a napkin at the same time she did. Our fingers brushed. Not long, just enough to make me feel it in my chest. She pulled her hand back first, a small smile flickering, like she'd caught herself in something she wasn't supposed to do. The silence after stretched. The faint hum of the refrigerator. The tick of the wall clock. I could hear my own breath. "You're quiet," she said finally, not looking at me as she set the pot aside. "I don't know what to say," I admitted, half a laugh in my throat. That made her glance up. Her eyes held me there, steady, searching. She was used to people filling space with words. I think she liked that I didn't. I tried to look away. I didn't. Her son, my friend, was upstairs, door closed, music faint behind it. We both knew he wasn't coming down soon. That knowledge hung between us like a secret neither of us had spoken. She leaned against the counter, arms folded. It made the thin fabric of her blouse shift, the faint line of her collarbone catching the low kitchen light. I swallowed hard, pretending to stir the coffee I didn't need. "You help him more than you realize," she said softly. "He listens to you." It wasn't the compliment. It was the way she said it, like she was really talking about me, not her son. I didn't answer right away. Words felt dangerous. Instead, I nodded, and for some reason that made her smile again, smaller this time, but warmer. The room was too warm now. Or maybe it was just me. Her hand rested on the counter, fingers tapping once, twice. Like she was weighing something. Then she stopped, let them go still, and the silence folded back over us. "I should," she started, but didn't finish. Neither of us moved. The sound of footsteps upstairs broke it. My friend's door opening. A muffled laugh at something on his phone. She straightened, brushing her hands over her blouse as if smoothing away evidence. I pushed back my chair, sudden and awkward, but she caught my wrist lightly before I could stand all the way. Not tight, just enough to keep me there. Her eyes searched mine again, and this time there was no pretending. No polite smile. Just a question hanging between us, wordless and sharp. Then she let go. "Promise you'll come back tomorrow," she said, her voice softer than I'd ever heard it. I nodded. I already knew I would. And then the kitchen door creaked open. She said it so easily. "Promise you'll come back tomorrow." But all night the words played in my head like something more. I told myself it was nothing. Just kindness. Just her being polite. But I still found myself at her door the next day, telling my friend I'd swing by to help with his project. It was true, technically. But not the reason. She opened the door before he could, hair tied back this time, an apron around her waist. The smell of garlic and onions drifted out, warm and inviting. "You're early," she said, but her tone wasn't scolding. If anything, it felt like relief. Bus came sooner than I thought," I lied, though I had walked. She smiled, a quick curve of her lips, then stepped aside to let me in. My friend shouted from upstairs that he'd be down soon. Which left us, again, in that quiet space where every sound seemed louder than it should be. The knife against the cutting board. The simmering pan. the faint scrape of her sleeve against the counter. I leaned on the doorway, watching her chop. Her hands were quick, practiced, the kind that knew how to care for people. I wondered when the last time had been that someone cared for her. Her wedding ring finger was bare. I'd noticed that before, though I never asked. People talked, sure. I knew she and her husband had split years ago, that she raised my friend mostly on her own. But no one ever mentioned if she was seeing someone now. The house was too quiet for that. "You cook a lot?" I asked, mostly just to hear her voice. She glanced over her shoulder, knife still moving. "When I have someone to cook for." A pause. Then, softer, "Not as much lately." The words sat heavy in the room. I wanted to ask more, but before I could, she brushed a stray strand of hair back, her fingers leaving a faint trace of flour on her cheek. Without thinking, I stepped forward. "Here," I said, reaching out. My thumb brushed the powdery streak away. Her skin was warm. Softer than I expected. Her breath caught, just faintly, but I felt it. She held still, too still, until I let my hand fall. "Thanks," she murmured, though her eyes didn't leave mine. I should have said something else. Instead, I shifted back, pretending to check my phone, heat crawling up my neck. She turned back to the cutting board, but slower this time. Her movements less certain, like the knife in her hand wasn't the only thing she was trying to steady. When my friend finally came clattering down the stairs, she set the knife aside, smoothing her apron like nothing had happened. But as I passed her to follow him into the living room, her hand brushed my shoulder, light, almost accidental. Except she didn't pull away right away. That single touch held me there longer than words ever could. It happened in fragments, too quick to name, too slow to ignore. We were in the living room. My friend had gone upstairs again, shouting something about grabbing his charger. That left me sitting on the couch, and her moving about, tidying things that didn't really need tidying. She crossed behind me, brushing close enough that her perfume, something soft, faintly floral, settled around me. I shifted forward, elbows on my knees, pretending to scroll my phone. But my pulse betrayed me. "You're quiet again," she said, her voice close. I looked up. She was leaning on the arm of the couch now, just a step away. Her hand rested on the fabric near my shoulder. Close enough that if I tilted even slightly. "I guess I don't have much to say," I muttered. "Or maybe you don't want to say it," she countered. That landed harder than I expected. My phone dimmed in my hand. I swallowed, caught between wanting to answer and not daring to. Her eyes flicked to my lips, quick, almost invisible. But I saw. And then, footsteps. Fast, heavy. My friend. She straightened instantly, brushing her blouse like dusting off an excuse. I shifted back, phone raised as if I'd been reading the whole time. He plopped down on the chair across from us, oblivious. Started talking about some game, some joke. I nodded, pretended to follow. But every nerve was still buzzing with what almost happened. Later, when he ran upstairs again, this time to grab snacks, her hand landed on the back of the couch, fingers tapping once, twice, then stopping. "You need to be careful," she whispered, not looking directly at me. "Me?" My voice cracked lower than I meant. "Yes." She finally turned her head, and the weight of her gaze pinned me there. "People see things. Even when nothing's happened." "Nothing. But it felt like everything." I shifted closer before I realized I had. Her knee brushed mine. Neither of us moved away. Her breath caught. A pause. My chest tightened. "You know this can't," she started, but the words broke off when I leaned just a little more. We were inches apart. Her hand hovered like she wanted to push me back, but didn't. My own hand clenched against my knee to keep from reaching for her. The silence was unbearable. Just her breath. Just mine. The warmth between us. The front door clicked. Voices outside. Neighbors passing? A car door slammed. We both flinched like we'd been caught. But neither of us moved away. When my friend came clattering down again, arms full of bags, she and I were still too close. Our knees touched. Her hand hadn't pulled back. And though we straightened when he walked in, the charge between us only tightened, like a string drawn too far, waiting to snap. It was late. Too late for me to still be there. My friend had gone upstairs, headphones on, lost to his own world. The house was quiet except for the hum of the fridge and the faint creak of wood when someone shifted their weight. She stood by the sink, rinsing glasses we hadn't even used, her shoulders tense, her hair falling loose. I stayed seated at the table, watching her in the reflection of the window. "Why do you keep coming back?" she asked suddenly. Not turning. Not casual. The words pinned me. I could have lied, said it was for my friend, for the project, but I didn't. "You know why," I said, my voice lower than I meant. She stilled. Water ran over her hand, forgotten. Then she set the glass down, turned slowly. Her face gave nothing away, but her eyes said everything. "That's dangerous," she whispered. I stood, more out of instinct than choice. My body felt pulled toward her, like the space between us had shrunk without warning. "Maybe," I said. "But I can't help it." She shook her head, a small, shaky laugh escaping her. "You don't understand what this would mean. For me. For you." I stepped closer. The air shifted. I could smell the faint citrus of the soap on her skin, the warmth radiating from her. "I don't care," I said. Her breath caught. She leaned back against the counter, nowhere else to go. My hand lifted, almost without permission, brushing a strand of damp hair from her cheek. My fingers grazed her skin, hot, alive, trembling beneath it. She closed her eyes for a second. Just 1 second. Then opened them, and the look she gave me wasn't guarded anymore. It was raw. "This is wrong," she murmured, but her voice cracked in the middle, breaking the word in half. I leaned closer, my hand still resting lightly against her temple. "Then tell me to stop." Her lips parted, but no sound came. The silence burned. Her chest rose and fell too quickly. My own heartbeat hammered against my ribs. Her hand lifted, slow, hesitant, and brushed my arm, the lightest touch, but enough to undo me. Enough to pull me forward until I was so close I could feel the heat of her breath against my mouth. She whispered, "If anyone knew, I don't care," I said again, softer this time, right by her ear. Her eyes fluttered shut, and for the first time, she leaned in, just a fraction. Enough to erase the last space between us. And then, footsteps. A door upstairs. My friend's voice calling something down the hall. We froze, suspended in a moment that couldn't be undone. Her lips hovered a breath away from mine. Her hand still on my arm. My body locked between pulling her closer and stepping back before it all collapsed. She opened her eyes, wide, unsteady. "Tomorrow," she whispered, so quietly I almost didn't hear it. The next day, I almost convinced myself not to come. Almost. But evening pulled me there again, the same street, the same house glowing faintly behind curtains. She opened the door slower this time, like she'd been weighing whether to answer at all. "You shouldn't keep showing up like this," she said, but her hand lingered too long on the door frame, as if holding herself back from closing it. "I promise," I reminded her. Her lips parted, but no reply came. She stepped aside. I entered. The house felt different, tense, expectant. My friend wasn't home yet. She was alone. "You knew he wasn't here," she said quietly, not looking at me as she crossed to the kitchen. The words hit harder than I expected. She'd caught me. The lie I hadn't spoken out loud. "Yeah," I admitted. My voice was rough, too low. "I knew. She stopped, her back to me, hands resting flat on the counter. I could see the faint tremor in her shoulders. "That's worse than I thought," she whispered. I stepped closer. Too close. Her reflection in the window showed her eyes closed, lips pressed tight. "I can't stop thinking about you," I said, the confession tearing itself free before I could hold it. She turned then, quick, almost startled. For a heartbeat, I thought she would slap me. Instead, she just stared, her chest rising fast, her hands gripping the counter behind her like she needed something solid to hold on to. "You don't understand what you're saying." "I do." Her laugh was sharp, broken. "You're 20. I'm twice your age. People would—" She stopped herself, shaking her head. I took another step forward. The air between us burned. "I don't care about people." Her breath hitched. She brushed past me, too quickly, her arm grazing mine, leaving sparks where our skin met. She paced the length of the kitchen, trying to put space between us. But when she turned back, her eyes betrayed her. "You think this is about them?" she said. "It's not. It's about me. About how long it's been since anyone looked at me like you do. About how wrong it feels that I want you to." The room spun with the force of it. She'd admitted it. Not fully, not clean, but enough. I moved before I could think, closing the distance. My hand brushed against hers, tentative, searching. She didn't pull away. Instead, her fingers curled, just slightly, hooking mine, trembling. The sound of a phone buzzing on the counter shattered it. Loud, insistent. Her phone. She jerked her hand back, eyes wide. A name lit the screen. Not mine. Not my friend's. Her ex-husband. She silenced it with shaking hands, then pressed the phone face down. When she looked back at me, her voice was raw, almost breaking. "You should go." But I didn't move. I couldn't. She stepped closer, close enough that her breath brushed my neck, and whispered, "If you stay, I won't be able to stop." I should have left when she told me to. Every muscle in me knew it. But I stayed, rooted to the kitchen floor, watching her press both hands against the counter like she was holding herself back from breaking. The phone buzzed again, face down, ignored. The sound only made the silence between us sharper. She turned slowly, her eyes finding mine, and whatever thin wall had been between us cracked. "You don't understand," she whispered. "This isn't just temptation. If I let this happen, it won't stop. Not tomorrow. Not the day after. It will ruin everything." Her voice shook, but her feet betrayed her, one small step closer. I met her halfway. The space shrank until I could feel the heat of her body, her breath brushing against my skin. My chest heaved with words I couldn't find. "Then ruin it," I said, too raw, too desperate. She flinched like the words struck her, but her hand lifted anyway, hesitant, trembling, resting against my jaw. Her thumb brushed the corner of my mouth, and I leaned into it like I'd been waiting forever. Her other hand hovered at my chest, not pushing me back, not pulling me closer. Caught in the same fight I was losing. "This is wrong," she whispered again, but her forehead lowered until it touched mine, the faintest contact. Her eyes closed. Her lips a breath away. My hand slid over hers where it rested on the counter, fingers weaving through. She didn't let go. For a long, impossible second, we just stood there, bodies drawn tight, everything unsaid vibrating in the space between us. "You make me feel..." She stopped, voice breaking, unable to finish. "I know," I whispered. And then the last thread snapped. She leaned in. Not a kiss, not fully, but her lips brushed mine, soft, testing, as if she was giving herself one last chance to pull away. She didn't. The kiss deepened, not rushed, but inevitable. My hand rose to her hair, sliding strands loose, holding her like she might vanish if I didn't. She gripped my shirt, knuckles white, pulling me closer with a sound caught between a sigh and a sob. When we finally broke, our foreheads still touching, we were both breathing hard, like we'd run miles. There was no pretending anymore. No way to call it an accident. She searched my face, raw, terrified, but alive in a way I'd never seen. "You can't tell him," she said, her voice barely holding together. "I won't," I promised, just as raw. She nodded, but her hand didn't leave mine. Her lips trembled, eyes shining with something that wasn't just fear. We stood there, locked in a truth neither of us could undo. And for the first time, it felt clear, not safe, not right, but real. We knew exactly what we were to each other now. The house was quiet again, though everything inside us was loud. We stayed close, leaning against the counter like we were afraid to let go, and watched it all dissolve into something unreal. She still had her hand in mine, fingers tense at first, then slowly softening as if she was testing the idea of trusting me with something fragile. "I shouldn't have let that happen," she whispered, though she didn't pull away. I shook my head. "You don't regret it?" Her eyes lifted, uncertain, but they held mine. Long enough that I knew I was right. She exhaled, shoulders loosening, like she'd been carrying the weight of that denial too long. "It scares me," she admitted. "The difference between us. What people would say. What it might do to him." I stepped closer, gently tugging her hand until she faced me fully. "I can't promise it'll be easy," I said, voice low, steady. "But I can promise I'm here. With you." Her lips trembled, not quite a smile, not quite tears. She reached up, brushing my hair back the way she'd done with her son 1,000 times, but slower, different, tender in a way she couldn't hide anymore. For a long moment, we just stood there, close enough to feel each other breathe. The urge to kiss her again burned, but I didn't push. I let the quiet hold us. Then she leaned in first, resting her forehead against mine. A soft, grounding touch. Her hand squeezed mine, firm now, no longer trembling. "I don't want to feel invisible anymore," she whispered. "You're not," I said instantly, without hesitation. Something in her broke open at that. Her body relaxed into mine, not desperate, not rushed, just finally unguarded. She let me hold her, her head against my chest, my arms around her. A simple embrace, but it carried more than words ever could. We stayed like that for what felt like forever. The world outside didn't matter, the whispers, the judgment, the risks. Right there, in that kitchen, it was only us. When she finally looked up, her eyes were softer, braver. "Tomorrow," she said again, but this time it wasn't a plea. It was a promise. I kissed her forehead, slow, certain. She closed her eyes and let it linger. The future would be messy. Complicated. But we both knew the decision had been made. Neither of us was walking away. We were in it now. Together. Speech Balloon, did you enjoy the story? Red Heart, what kind of stories would you like to hear next?